where this kind of thing never happens again. Dr. Ben Clark's communication network had evolved into something much larger than just a military tool. It was now connecting human colonies, alien worlds, and independent traders into a new kind of galactic community. Information flowed freely, making it impossible for any single species to control the narrative the way the old council had. "We're seeing something unprecedented," Clark reported to a gathering of human and alien scientists on the research station New Horizon. "For the first time in galactic history, every species has access to the same information at the same time. No more secrets, no more lies." But the biggest change was happening on Earth itself. The planet that had once been dismissed as a backwater colony was now the unofficial capital of the galaxy. Alien diplomats and traders came to negotiate with human leaders. Students from dozens of species attended human universities to learn about the concepts of democracy and individual rights. Commander Ryan Hayes, now promoted to admiral, was in charge of the new Galactic Defense Force. His fleet included ships from 23 different species, all working together to keep the peace. The old council ruled through fear. He explained to a group of young officers during a training exercise, "We're going to try something different. We're going to rule through hope." It wasn't always easy. Some alien species struggled with human concepts like equality and personal freedom. They had been following orders for so long that they didn't know how to make decisions for themselves. Other species tried to exploit human mercy, thinking that kindness meant weakness. They learned quickly that humans could be gentle with their friends and brutal with their enemies, sometimes within the same day. The former War Master Krail Dex found himself in a human prison, awaiting trial for his role in the attacks on civilian ships like the Aurora. He had expected torture and execution. Instead, he was given books to read and allowed to attend classes on human law and ethics. "I don't understand your species," he told his human guard one day. "You have the power to destroy us all, but instead you try to educate us. Why?" The guard, a young woman named Patricia Lee, thought about the question. "Because destroying you wouldn't bring back the people you killed, but maybe teaching you will prevent someone else from getting killed in the future." As the first year of the new order came to an end, President Gonzalez addressed the galaxy from the same room where she had once been forced to negotiate with council diplomats who saw humans as inferior. "We didn't choose this war," she said, her words broadcast to every inhabited world. "But we did choose how to end it. We could have responded to cruelty with cruelty, to hatred with hatred. Instead, we chose a different path." Behind her stood representatives from 47 species, including many who had once supported the Council's anti-human policies. They were there not as conquered enemies, but as partners in building something new. The old Galactic Council believed that peace came from the strong controlling the weak. Gonzalez continued, "We believe that peace comes from everyone having a voice, everyone having rights, and everyone having hope for a better future." Captain Steve Johnson, who had broadcast the footage of Helen Rodriguez's death that helped start the war, was now commanding a hospital ship that traveled between worlds, providing medical care to anyone who needed it. His crew included Dr. Amy Foster and many of the refugees who had been on the Aurora that terrible day, like young Joey Martinez, now 10 years old, had become an unofficial symbol of the new galaxy. His story had been heard on every world, and his message of forgiveness rather than revenge had influenced policy decisions across human space. "I still miss my grandma," he said during a ceremony honoring the victims of the war. "But I think she would be happy that something good came from something so bad." Admiral Sullivan looked out at the stars from her new headquarters on Luna Base and reflected on how much had changed. Earth's military was now the strongest in the galaxy, but more importantly, Earth's values were spreading to species that had never heard concepts like democracy and human rights. "We're not done yet," she told her staff during their evening briefing. "Building a better galaxy is going to take generations, not months, but we've made a good start." The numbers supported her optimism. Trade between species was up 400%. Scientific cooperation had led to breakthroughs in medicine and technology that benefited everyone. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, there were no active wars between major powers. But perhaps the most important change was in how species viewed each other. The old council had encouraged competition and mistrust between different groups. The new system, based on human principles, emphasized cooperation and mutual respect, thought Captain Lucy Barnes. The woman who had led the daring attack on the Zephyrian homeworld now commanded a joint exploration fleet that included ships from 12 different species. Their mission was to explore the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim, working together to discover new worlds and new forms of life. The old galaxy was about taking what you could and holding on to it, she told her mixed crew as they prepared for their next mission. The new galaxy is about finding new things and sharing them with everyone. As Earth's second sun set over the rebuilt city of New Geneva, President Gonzalez stood in her office and looked at the reports covering her desk. There were still problems to solve, conflicts to resolve, and injustices to correct. But for the first time in her political career, she felt genuinely hopeful about the future. Humanity had been pushed to the edge of extinction and had fought their way back. In the process, they had discovered that their greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their unwillingness to accept that suffering and oppression were inevitable. The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was getting better. And that, Gonzalez thought, was worth all the pain it had taken to get here. Outside her window, ships from dozens of different worlds moved peacefully through Earth's orbital traffic control system. Human and alien crews worked side by side, building something that had never existed before, a galactic civilization based on justice rather than force. The day the Galactic Council went too far had become the day everything changed. And the change, though born in violence, was growing into something beautiful. Impossible odds. The secret was not superior technology or numbers. It was the way humans fought. Other species followed rigid tactics and traditional strategies. Humans adapted to every situation, using whatever worked and discarding whatever didn't. When their enemies expected them to retreat, humans attacked. When their enemies expected attacks, humans used diplomacy. When their enemies expected mercy, humans showed none. But the most important human weapon was something the aliens had never understood: the willingness to sacrifice everything for an idea. Private Lisa Murphy was part of the team that liberated one of the alien prison camps on the edge of the galaxy. She found children who had been separated from their parents for months, adults who had been worked nearly to death, elderly people who had been left to die without medical care. Why? She asked one of the captured alien guards. "Why did you do this to innocent people?" The alien looked confused by the question. They were humans. They were in the way of galactic order. Lisa realized then that the aliens didn't see humans as people at all. They saw them as obstacles, problems to be solved, pests to be removed. That's why they could commit such horrible crimes without feeling guilty. But humans saw things differently. Every person mattered. Every life had value. Every injustice demanded a response. That difference in perspective was what made humans so dangerous to the old galactic order. They couldn't be bought with promises of safety or comfort. They couldn't be intimidated by superior firepower. They couldn't be reasoned with when their core beliefs were threatened. As Admiral Sullivan watched the tactical displays in her command center, she felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Humanity was winning the war, but the cost would be enormous. The galaxy would never be the same. "Admiral," reported her intelligence officer, "we're getting surrender requests from 17 different species. They want to negotiate separate peace treaties." "Tell them to wait," Sullivan replied. "We'll talk after we finish dealing with the Zephyrians and Nexari." The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The species that had tried to destroy humanity were learning what humans had always known. Sometimes, the only way to stop a bully is to hit back harder than they hit you. And humans had been practicing that lesson for their entire history. 6 months after the war began, the galaxy looked very different. The mighty Zephyrian Empire had collapsed into 3 separate factions, all begging Earth for protection from each other. The Nexari Collective's homeworld was under human occupation, their advanced computer networks now serving human interests instead of their own. General Tony Lewis walked through the ruins of the Nexari capital city, surveying the damage. The buildings were still standing, but the spirit of the place had been broken. Nexari civilians moved quietly through the streets, avoiding eye contact with the human soldiers who now kept the peace. "General, the local administrators want to meet with you," reported Colonel Sarah Williams, his second in command. "They're asking about food distributions for the civilian population." Tony nodded. "Set up the meeting for this afternoon, and make sure they understand that cooperation will be rewarded, but any attempts to harm human personnel will be punished severely." The occupation of the Nexari homeworld had been surprisingly peaceful. After their military was destroyed, most Nexari had simply given up. They were a logical species, and logic told them that resistance was pointless. But Tony knew that peace built on fear alone wouldn't last. Eventually, humans would need to find a better way to govern their former enemies. On Earth, President Maria Gonzalez was dealing with the same problem on a galactic scale. Every day brought new surrender offers from species that had supported the Council's anti-human policies. Her desk was covered with treaty proposals, all of them basically the same: complete submission to human authority in exchange for protection. "We can't rule the entire galaxy," she told Admiral Sullivan during one of their daily strategy meetings. "We don't have the people or the resources." "Maybe we don't need to rule them," Sullivan replied. "Maybe we just need to make sure they never threaten us again." Ambassador Lisa Carter had been busy traveling to different alien worlds, negotiating the terms of their surrender. She had learned that most species had supported the anti-human policies, not because they hated humans, but because they were afraid of the Zephyrians and Nexari. Fear was what held the old council together, she explained to Gonzalez. The strong species threatened the weak ones into compliance. If we can break that cycle, we might be able to build something better. But first, humanity had to deal with justice for the crimes that had been committed. Dr. Alex Bennett had spent months documenting the evidence found in alien prison camps and military installations. The files contained detailed records of atrocities committed against human civilians, mass executions, medical experiments, forced labor, systematic starvation, and worse. "We have enough evidence to convict thousands of alien war criminals," he reported to the newly formed Human Justice Committee. "The question is what to do with them." Some humans wanted revenge. They argued that aliens who had murdered human families should face the same fate. Others believed that humanity needed to be better than their enemies, even in victory. The debate was settled when little Joey Martinez, now 9 years old and living with foster parents on Earth, addressed the committee through a video message. "My grandma Helen always told me that being angry was okay, but staying angry forever would hurt me more than it hurt the people I was mad at," he said in his small, clear voice. "I think she would want us to be fair, not mean." The committee decided to hold trials for the worst war criminals, but to focus on rehabilitation rather than revenge for most others. It was a choice that surprised many alien species, who had expected humans to be as cruel in victory as the Council had been Captain Jake Morrison, found himself in command of a mixed fleet of human and alien ships, patrolling the space lanes that had once been controlled by Zephyrian pirates. His crew now included former enemies who had volunteered to serve under human command. "Captain, we are receiving a distress call from a civilian transport," reported Lieutenant Sam Parker. "It's a Zephyrian ship carrying refugees from the Civil War in their home system." Jake had to make a decision. 6 months ago, Zephyrian ships had been hunting human civilians. Now Zephyrian civilians needed human help to survive. "Set course to intercept," he ordered, "and prepare the medical bay to receive casualties." His bridge crew, which now included a former Zephyrian officer named Telvac, looked surprised. Telvac spoke up carefully. "Captain, these may be the same people who attacked your colonies." "Maybe," Jake replied, "but they're people in trouble right now, and that's what matters." The rescue mission went smoothly. The Zephyrian transport was carrying 300 refugees, mostly women and children, fleeing the violence in their home system. As human medics treated their wounded, Jake found himself talking to one of the Zephyrian mothers. "Why are you helping us?" she asked through a translator. "My people tried to destroy yours." "Because helping people is what we do," Jake said simply. "It's who we are." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Human forces were finding themselves in the strange position of protecting the same aliens who had tried to exterminate them. It wasn't easy, and not all humans agreed with the policy, but President Gonzalez had been clear about her expectations. "We're not fighting to become the new tyrants," she had told the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "We're fighting to build a galaxy." The first sign that something had changed came exactly 12 hours after Helen Rodriguez died on the Aurora. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching status reports flow in from across human space. "Operation Rising Thunder is now active," she announced to her staff. "All units are go." For 30 years, the Galactic Council had thought they understood humanity. They saw humans as a young species, primitive and weak, useful only for doing dangerous jobs that other species didn't want. They were wrong about everything. Captain Jake Morrison was still near the ruins of New Boston when he received Sullivan's coded message. His ship, the ECS Venture, had been pretending to be a simple cargo vessel. Now it revealed its true nature. Hidden panels slid open along the hull, exposing weapons that could destroy a city. The cargo holds contained not trade goods, but fighter craft piloted by Earth's best combat pilots. The civilian crew removed their fake uniforms to reveal the dark blue of Earth's special forces. "All hands, this is Captain Morrison," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "We are no longer pretending to be merchants. We are soldiers, and we have work to do." The Zephyrian battle group orbiting New Boston detected the weapon signatures and immediately went to battle alert. War Prime Kefter, the alien commander who had overseen the colony's destruction, sent a mocking message to Jake's ship. "Human vessel, you are outgunned and outnumbered. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to Council regulations." Jake's response was a spread of missiles that tore through the nearest Zephyrian cruiser like paper. "This is for Helen Rodriguez," he said quietly. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 12 alien warships were floating dead in space, and the EC Venture hadn't taken a scratch. The Zephyrians had been so confident in their superiority that they never bothered to learn how humans really fought. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Ships that the Council had dismissed as harmless traders and explorers were revealing weapon systems that should have been impossible for humans to build. Colonies that appeared defenseless were fighting back with tactics the aliens had never seen before. On the edge of the Centauri system, Commander Ryan Hayes led a fleet of what looked like simple patrol boats against the Nixari base. The aliens laughed at the small human ships right up until those ships opened fire with experimental energy weapons that punched through Nixari's shields like they weren't there. "Target their command center," Hayes ordered. "I want to send them a message they won't forget." The Nixari base had been built to control human shipping in the sector. Its computers contained records of every human ship that had been stopped, every family that had been separated, every person who had disappeared. Hayes made sure those computers were the first things to explode. But the real surprise came when humanity revealed what they had been building in secret. Dr. Ben Clark's communication network was more than just a way to send messages. It was a command and control system that allowed perfect coordination between human forces separated by hundreds of light years. When Admiral Sullivan gave an order on Earth, every human commander in the galaxy received it instantly. The aliens had always fought as separate fleets and armies. Humans fought as a single organism with thousands of parts, all working together toward the same goal. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Wright was leading the ground assault to retake New Boston when he got Sullivan's latest intelligence update. The orbital defenses were down, but the planet still had alien troops holding human prisoners in camps across the surface. "Listen up, people," Danny told his soldiers as their dropships descended through the atmosphere. "We've got about 2,000 civilians down there who have been through hell. Our job is to get them out and make sure the aliens who hurt them never hurt anyone again." The assault was swift and brutal. Human soldiers moved through the alien camps like ghosts, appearing from nowhere to strike at guards and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The Zephyrians had thought humans were too emotional to be good soldiers. They discovered that human emotion, properly focused, was the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. Emma Davis, the colony administrator who had been beaten by the alien commander, was found in a prison cell with 30 other women. She was weak from days without proper food, but she was alive. "Are you really human?" she asked when Danny's team broke down her cell door. "We're human," Danny confirmed. "And we're here to take you home." Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, other human forces were discovering the full extent of the Council's crimes. Dr. Alex Bennett led a team of investigators to examine the alien prison facilities. What they found made their blood run cold. The relocation centers were not temporary holding areas. They were extermination camps designed to slowly kill human prisoners through overwork, starvation, and disease. The aliens had been planning genocide, but they wanted to do it slowly so the galaxy wouldn't notice. "Document everything," Bennett ordered his team. "Every torture device, every mass grave, every piece of evidence. The galaxy is going to see what the Council really is." But humans weren't just fighting to save their own people. They were fighting to change the entire galactic order. Captain Lucy Barnes commanded a fleet of stealth ships that had been hidden in deep space for years. Her target was the Zephyrian homeworld itself, the capital of an empire that had controlled half the galaxy for 1,000 years. The Zephyrians had never been attacked on their home planet. Their cities had no real defenses because they never imagined anyone would be crazy enough to challenge them there. They were wrong. Barnes' ships appeared in the sky above the capital city like demons from space. They didn't target civilians or civilian structures. Instead, they hit military bases, government buildings, and communication centers with surgical precision. "This is Captain Lucy Barnes of the Earth Space Force." She broadcast on all Zephyrian frequencies. "Your forces have committed acts of genocide against human civilians. We are here to deliver justice." The psychological impact was enormous. If humans could attack the Zephyrian homeworld, nowhere in Council space was safe. Other species that had supported the anti-human policies began to reconsider their positions. In the Nexari home system. Similar attacks were taking place. The Nexari had always prided themselves on being the smartest species in the galaxy. They built their ships with the most advanced computers and artificial intelligence systems available. They had never considered that humans might be better at electronic warfare. Human hackers, led by Dr. Clark's team, penetrated Nexari computer networks and turned their own ships against them. Nexari captains watched in horror as their vessels refused to obey orders and began attacking each other instead. "Impossible," muttered War Master Kraildex as his flagship's weapons turned on his own fleet. "No primitive species could defeat our security systems." "You keep calling us primitive," came a human voice over his communication system. "Maybe it's time you learned what that word really means." A voice belonged to a young human technician named Bobby Chun, who was sitting in a command center on Earth. He had been 13 years old when the Nexari first called humans too stupid to understand advanced technology. Now he was 25, and he was systematically destroying their entire fleet from 600 light years away. As news of the human victories spread across the galaxy, other species began to panic. The Council had spent decades convincing everyone that humans were weak and helpless. Now those same humans were tearing apart the two most powerful empires in known space. Some species tried to distance themselves from the anti-human policies. Others doubled down and sent their own fleets to help the Zephyrians and Nexari. They discovered that humans had been preparing for this war a lot longer than anyone realized. Admiral Sullivan received reports from battlefields across the galaxy. Human forces were winning everywhere, often against. Captain Steve Johnson looked out the bridge window of the civilian transport ship Aurora at the sea of stars ahead. His ship was carrying 400 refugees from Earth to the Alpha Centauri colonies. Most of them were families with children, people who had decided to leave Earth before the Galactic Council's deadline arrived. "Captain, we're picking up ships on long-range sensors," called out his navigation officer, Lieutenant Mike Torres. "Looks like an Nexari patrol." Steve felt his stomach tighten. The Nexari were supposed to be neutral in the current crisis, but nobody trusted them anymore. Not after what had happened at New Boston and the other colonies. "How many ships?" Steve asked. "3 cruisers, sir. They're moving to intercept us." Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's medical officer, came onto the bridge. She had been taking care of sick children in the refugee quarters. "Captain, what's happening?" "Some of the passengers are getting scared." "We've got company," Steve said. "Nexari ships. Probably just a routine inspection." But Steve didn't believe his own words. Nothing was routine anymore. In the past week, 3 human ships had disappeared while traveling between colonies. The Council claimed they had suffered mechanical failures, but Steve knew better. The Nexari ships moved closer, their sleek gray hulls gleaming in the starlight. They were beautiful ships, built with technology far beyond anything humans possessed. They were also deadly. "Aurora, this is Nexari Battle Group 7. Came a cold voice over the communication system. "Prepare to be boarded for inspection." Steve activated his ship's transmitter. "Nexari ships, this is Captain Johnson of the transport ship Aurora. We are carrying civilian passengers on a routine flight to Alpha Centauri. We are not armed and pose no threat to anyone. All human vessels are subject to inspection under Council Security Resolution 2847. You will stop your engines and prepare for boarding." Steve had never heard of Council Security Resolution 2847. It had probably been written yesterday. "What exactly are you looking for?" "Weapons, contraband, and fugitives from Council justice. We don't have any of those things. That will be determined by our inspection team." Steve looked at his crew. They all knew what this was really about. The Council was stopping human ships and taking people away. They called it law enforcement, but it was really kidnapping Dot in the passenger quarters. 8-year-old Joey Martinez was playing with his toy spaceship when the announcement came over the ship's speakers. All passengers, please remain calm. We are being boarded by Council security forces for a routine inspection. Joey's grandmother, Helen Rodriguez, pulled him close. She was 73 years old and had lived through a lot of hard times, but she had never been this scared. Helen had survived the attack on New Boston by hiding in the woods while the aliens took her neighbors away. She and Joey were some of the few people who had escaped. Grandma, are the bad aliens going to hurt us? Joey asked. Helen wanted to lie to him, to tell him everything would be okay. But she had seen what the Council's soldiers did to children. I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens, stay close to me. On the bridge, Steve watched the Nexari ship's dock with his vessel. Alien soldiers in heavy armor marched through the corridors, their weapons ready. They moved like they expected a fight, even though everyone on the Aurora was unarmed. The Nexari commander was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin like polished metal. He spoke through a translator device that made his voice sound like grinding gears. I am War Master Kraildex. This ship is now under Council authority. All humans will be processed for relocation to secure facilities. These people are refugees, Steve said. They're not criminals. All humans are potential criminals. Your species has been classified as a security threat to galactic peace. Dr. Foster stepped forward. At least let me treat the sick children before you do whatever you're planning to do. The alien looked at her with eyes like black glass. Medical treatment will be provided at the relocation facilities. Some of these children won't live long enough to reach your facilities. They need help now. Human medical problems are not our concern. Steve felt anger building in his chest. These creatures were talking about children dying like it was a minor inconvenience. What kind of monsters are you? We are the protectors of galactic order. Your species threatens that order. In the passenger quarters, the Nexari soldiers were separating families into groups. Men were being taken to one area, women to another, children to a third. Helen held Joey's hand tightly as a soldier approached them. You will come with us. The soldier said in broken English. Where are you taking us? Helen asked. To safety. I feel safe here. The soldier raised his weapon. You will come now, or you will be forced to come. Helen looked around and saw other families being torn apart. Parents were crying as their children were dragged away. Some people tried to resist, but the alien soldiers were too strong. Joey started to cry. I want to stay with Grandma. You will be reunited at the processing center, the soldier lied. Helen knew it was a lie. She had heard the same words at New Boston before the aliens loaded people onto separate ships and sent them to different parts of the galaxy. Families that were separated never saw each other again. Please, she begged. He's just a little boy. Don't take him away from me. The soldier reached for Joey with one of his mechanical hands. Helen tried to shield the boy with her body, but she was old and weak. The alien pushed her aside easily. That's when everything went wrong. Helen fell hard against the metal wall. The sound of her head hitting the steel echoed through the corridor. She slumped to the floor and didn't get up. Blood began to pool beneath her gray hair. Joey screamed and ran to his grandmother, but she wasn't moving. Her eyes were open, but they weren't seeing anything anymore. Grandma, Grandma, wake up. The Nexari soldier looked down at Helen's body without emotion. The elderly human has expired. Remove it. Dr. Foster came running when she heard Joey's screams. She knelt beside Helen and checked for a pulse, but it was too late. The old woman was dead. You killed her, Foster said, her voice shaking with rage. She was no threat to anyone, and you killed her. It was an accident during processing, the soldier replied. Such incidents are regrettable, but sometimes necessary. Foster looked at Joey, who was still crying over his grandmother's body. The boy had lost his parents in the attack on New Boston. Helen was all he had left in the world. Now he was completely alone. On the bridge, Captain Johnson was watching the security feeds from the passenger quarters. He saw Helen fall. He saw the blood. He saw little Joey crying over her body. And he saw the alien soldiers acting like nothing important had happened. That's when Steve Johnson made a decision that would change everything. He activated his ship's emergency communication system and started broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Captain Steve Johnson of the transport ship Aurora. I am transmitting live footage of Council forces murdering innocent human civilians. A victim was Helen Rodriguez, a 73-year-old grandmother whose only crime was trying to protect her grandson. The images went out across the galaxy through Dr. Clark's communication network. Every human ship, every human colony, every human outpost received the transmission at the same time. War Master Kraildex realized what was happening and tried to stop the broadcast, but it was too late. The damage was done. On Earth, President Gonzalez was in the middle of a final negotiation session with the Council when the transmission arrived. She watched Helen die on the small screen of her personal communicator. She watched Joey cry over his grandmother's body. She watched the alien soldiers treat a child's grief like it was an annoying delay. The Council representatives in the room were still talking about peaceful solutions and mutual benefits. They hadn't seen the footage yet. They didn't know that their soldiers had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Gonzalez stood up slowly and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of the city where she had been born. Millions of humans lived down there, going about their daily lives, trusting their government to protect them. Madam President, one of the alien diplomats, was saying, "Surely we can reach an agreement that benefits everyone." Gonzalez turned around and looked at the creatures sitting at her table. They looked so civilized in their fancy clothes and polite manners. But she had just watched their soldiers murder a grandmother and orphan a child. "The negotiation is over," she said quietly. "But we haven't finished discussing the terms of your surrender." "There will be no surrender." Gonzalez activated her communicator and sent a single coded message to Admiral Sullivan. "Execute Order Omega." Then she looked back at the alien diplomats. "I want you to deliver a message to your council. Tell them that humanity formally withdraws from all treaties and agreements. Tell them that we reject their authority. And tell them that we will hold them accountable for every human life they have taken." The lead diplomat, a Zephyrian with golden skin, actually laughed. "What can your primitive species possibly do against the combined might of 47 civilizations?" "President." Gonzalez smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "You're about to find out." Commander Ryan Hayes guided his supply ship, the ECS Morning Star, through the asteroid field toward New Boston Colony. The trip had been routine so far, but something felt wrong. His long-range sensors were picking up too many ships in the area. Way too many for a simple supply run. "Commander, I'm reading 12 alien vessels in orbit around New Boston," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Jenny Walsh. "They're big ones. Looks like Zephyrian battle cruisers." Ryan frowned. The Zephyrians were one of the most powerful species in the Galactic Council. Their ships were twice the size of human vessels and armed with weapons that could destroy a city. What were they doing at a peaceful farming colony? "Try to contact New Boston Control," Ryan ordered. "Let them know we're here with their supplies." Jenny worked at her console for several minutes, then shook her head. "No response, sir. All communication channels are being jammed." That was definitely not normal. Ryan made a decision that probably saved his life. Instead of flying straight to the colony, He moved his ship behind a large asteroid where the alien ships couldn't see them. "Bring us in close to that big rock," he told his pilot, "and keep us hidden. I want to see what's going on down there before we announce ourselves." Through his ship's cameras, Ryan could see New Boston spread out below them. It was a beautiful place, with green farms and small towns scattered across the planet's surface. 10,000 humans lived there, mostly farmers and their families. It was supposed to be one of the safest places in human space. But something terrible was happening. Alien ships were landing in the towns. Soldiers in strange armor were walking through the streets. Ryan watched in horror as families were dragged from their homes and loaded onto transport ships. Children were crying. Parents were shouting. Some people tried to run, but the alien soldiers caught them easily. "My God," whispered Jenny. "They're taking everyone." Ryan's hands shook as he activated his ship's recording system. Whatever was happening here, people needed to see it. The galaxy needed to know what the Council was really doing. In the main square of New Boston's capital, Ryan could see a group of humans being forced to their knees. A tall alien in fancy armor was standing over them. Even from space, Ryan could tell the alien was enjoying himself. The creature raised his weapon and pointed it at an old man who had fallen down. "Commander, we have to do something," said Jenny. Ryan wanted to help. Every part of his soul screamed at him to attack those ships and save those people. But his ship only had light weapons. Against 12 battle cruisers, the Morning Star would last about 30 seconds. If he died here, no one would ever know. What happened to New Boston? "Keep recording," he said through gritted teeth, "and send everything we capture back to Earth through the emergency channels." Dr. Ben Clark's new communication system was supposed to be secret, but Ryan's ship had been equipped with it anyway. Now he was glad Admiral Sullivan had taken that risk. Down on the planet, the situation was getting worse. The alien soldiers were separating the colonists into groups. Men in one area, women in another, children in a third. Ryan had seen this before in history books. It never ended well. Emma Davis, the colony's administrator, was standing in front of the alien commander. Ryan could see her mouth moving, but he couldn't hear what she was saying. The alien seemed to be laughing at her. Then one of the soldiers hit her with the back of his weapon, and she fell to the ground. "That's enough," Ryan muttered. He activated his ship's communication system and sent out a message on all frequencies. "This is Commander Ryan Hayes of the Earth Space Force. I am witnessing what appears to be an illegal attack on New Boston Colony. I demand that you stop this action immediately." The response came quickly. A cold mechanical voice filled his bridge. "Human vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Land your ship and prepare to be taken into protective custody." Protective custody? Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that what you call kidnapping innocent people?" "The humans of New Boston are being relocated for their own safety. They will be taken to secure facilities where they cannot harm themselves or others. They're farmers. What harm could they possibly do? All humans are unpredictable and violent. The Galactic Council has determined that your species cannot be trusted with freedom." Ryan felt sick. This was really happening. The Council wasn't just threatening to take over human colonies. They were actually doing it, and they were calling it protection. "Commander," Jenny said urgently, "I'm picking up movement from those battle cruisers. 3 of them are heading our way." Ryan made another quick decision. "All power to engines. Get us out of here, now." The Morning Star shot out from behind the asteroid, just as the first alien weapons fire lit up the space where they had been. Hiding, Ryan's pilot was good, weaving between asteroids and using the rocky field to block the enemy's targeting systems. But the Zephyrian ships were faster. They were gaining quickly. "Jump to hyperspace as soon as we clear the field," Ryan ordered. "Sir, we need another few minutes to reach minimum safe distance," the pilot replied. "We don't have a few minutes." Energy beams flashed past their ship, some coming close enough to make the hull shake. Ryan could see the alien ships getting closer. In a few more seconds, they would be close enough that even a bad shot would destroy. The morning star dot, then something unexpected happened. The alien ships suddenly stopped chasing them. Ryan looked at his sensors and saw why. A new ship had appeared in the system. It was huge, even bigger than the Zephyrian battlecruisers, and it was heading straight for New Boston. "What is that thing?" Jenny asked. Ryan enhanced the image on his main screen. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was covered in weapons and had the angular design that meant it belonged to the Nexari Collective. The Nexari were the smartest species in the Council, but they were also the most cruel. "It's a Nexari dreadnought," Ryan said. "They're not just attacking the colony, they're making sure nobody can stop them." The Morning Star finally reached safe distance and jumped into hyperspace. As the stars stretched around them, Ryan continued transmitting everything they had recorded back to Earth. Admiral Sullivan needed to see this. President Gonzalez needed to see this. The whole human race needed to know what was happening. Back on Earth, Dr. Ben Clark was working late in his laboratory when the emergency transmission came through his new communication network. At first, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Then anger replaced disbelief. The images from New Boston were clear. Families being torn apart, people being loaded onto ships like cattle, children crying for their parents. And through it all, the aliens acted like they were doing humans a favor. Ben immediately forwarded the transmission to Admiral Sullivan and President Gonzalez. Within minutes, his communication system was buzzing with activity as the recording spread to every human ship and colony in the galaxy. In her office, Admiral Sullivan watched the footage with growing rage. She had suspected the Council was planning something like this, but seeing it actually happen was different. These weren't soldiers being captured in battle. These were innocent people being kidnapped from their homes. She activated her own communication system and sent a coded message to every human military commander in the galaxy. "Operation Rising Thunder is now active. Prepare for immediate deployment." President Maria Gonzalez received the transmission while she was in a meeting with the Council's diplomatic staff. The aliens were still pretending that everything was normal, still talking about peaceful solutions and mutual cooperation. "Madam President," one of the Zephyrian diplomats was saying, "we understand your concerns about our security proposals, but surely you can see that we only want to protect humanity from itself." Gonzalez looked at the alien's face and wondered if he knew what his people were doing to New Boston. Probably not. The Council always kept their diplomats separate from their soldiers. It made lying easier. "I think this meeting is over," she said quietly, "but we haven't finished discussing the terms of your compliance," the alien protested. "There won't be any compliance." Gonzalez stood up and walked to the door. "Tell your Council that humanity rejects their protection. We'll take care of ourselves." As she left the room, Gonzalez could hear the aliens talking excitedly behind her. They probably thought she was making a mistake. They had no idea that the war they had started was about to get much bigger than they expected. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the ECS Venture, watching the blue and green planet Earth grow larger on the main screen. After 6 months in deep space, he was finally coming home. The diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim had been a success, but Jake felt tired. Dealing with alien politicians was harder than fighting space pirates. "Captain, we're getting a message from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Sam Parker, the communications officer. The young man looked worried. "Admiral Sullivan wants to see you as soon as we dock." Jake nodded. Kate Sullivan was not someone who called meetings for small things. If she wanted to see him right away, something big was happening. The ECS Venture moved slowly toward Earth's main space station. Jake could see dozens of other ships around the planet. Most were human vessels, but some belonged to other species. From the Galactic Council. For 30 years, Earth had been part of this big group of alien civilizations. At first, humans had been excited to join. They thought it meant peace and friendship across the stars. Jake knew better now. The Galactic Council treated humans like children. They gave Earth the worst trade deals and the most dangerous missions. When humans tried to speak up in council meetings, the aliens would smile and pat them on the head like pets. It made Jake's blood boil. The ship docked with a soft thud. Jake walked through the corridors of the space station, passing other human officers. They all looked tense. Something was definitely wrong. Admiral Kate Sullivan was waiting in her office. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Jake had known her for 15 years, and he had never seen her look this serious. "Jake, sit down," she said. "We have a problem, a big one." Jake took a seat across from her desk. Through the window behind her, he could see Earth spinning slowly in space. It looked so peaceful from here. The Galactic Council called an emergency. "Meeting yesterday," Sullivan continued. "Ambassador Lisa Carter was there. What they told her." She paused and shook her head. "Jake, they want us to give up our military." "What do you mean, give up our military?" "All of it. Every ship, every weapon, every defense system. They want us to hand it all over to them." Sullivan's voice was calm, but Jake could hear the anger underneath. "They say humans are too violent to be trusted with weapons." Jake felt his hands clench into fists. "That's crazy. We've never attacked another council species. We've only defended ourselves. They don't care about that. The Zephyrians and the Nexari have been pushing for this for years. They say we're unpredictable and dangerous." Sullivan stood up and walked to the window. "They're giving us 1 week to comply. And if we refuse, they'll do it for us. They call it protective custody. All human colonies will be placed under alien control. Our people will be moved to special zones for their own safety." Jake understood now. This wasn't about protection. This was conquest with a pretty name. "What does President Gonzalez say?" "She's trying to negotiate, but the council won't listen. They've already made up their minds." Sullivan turned back to face him. "Jake, I need you to do something for me. Take the Venture and visit our outer colonies. Check on their defenses. But do it quietly. You think they're already moving against us?" "I know they are. Dr. Alex Bennett found some disturbing reports. 3 of our smaller colonies have gone silent in the past month. Official reports say they had communication problems. Alex thinks something else happened." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "You want me to find out what really happened to them?" "Yes, but be careful. If the council is already attacking our people, they might not want witnesses." Sullivan handed him a datapad. "These are your orders. Officially, you're conducting routine supply runs. Unofficially, you're gathering intelligence." Jake took the pad and looked at the list of colonies. New Haven, Prosperity, Freedom Point. All of them were small settlements on the edge of human space. If something had happened to them, their people might be dead or worse. "There's something else," Sullivan said. "Dr. Ben Clark has been working on a special project. He calls it a communication network that works faster than light. If the council tries to cut us off from our colonies, we'll still be able to talk to them. Does the council know about this? They think we abandoned the project years ago. We let them believe that." For the first time, Sullivan smiled. "Sometimes it's better to let people think you're weak." Jake stood up and saluted. "I'll leave within the hour. Good. And Jake, whatever you find out there, document everything. If the Council is hurting our people, the whole galaxy needs to know about it. Jake left the office and walked back toward his ship. The corridors seemed different now. Every alien he passed looked like a potential enemy. Had they always been planning this? Had the 30 years of friendship been nothing but a lie? On the bridge of the Venture, Jake called his crew. Together. There were 23 humans on board, all good people who had signed up to explore the stars and help their species. Now they might be going to war. Listen up, everyone, Jake said. We have new orders. We're going to check on some of our outer colonies. The mission might be dangerous, so if anyone wants to transfer to another ship, now is the time. Nobody moved. Lieutenant Parker spoke for all of them. Captain, wherever you're going, we're going with you. Jake felt proud of his crew. These were the kind of people the Council called violent and unpredictable. They were brave and loyal, willing to risk their lives for others. If that made them dangerous, then maybe dangerous wasn't such a bad thing to be. The Venture left Earth's orbit and jumped into hyperspace. As the stars stretched into lines around them, Jake thought about what they might find. If the Council had already started attacking human colonies, then the war had already begun. The only question was whether humanity would fight back or let themselves be conquered. Jake knew which option he preferred. Humans had always been fighters when they needed to be. If the Galactic Council wanted a war, they would get one. But they might not like how it ended.